Yo, welcome back, guys. Good to be back and ready to jump into this thing. Garrett, kick us off, man.
Yeah, so in this past week, I have been watching a lot of David Senra interviews. He's great on his show, so Founders, and then he's got his own kind of Living Legends podcast, which is the David Senra show. I haven't seen any of those episodes. He's gone on tour to all these other podcasters and is doing interviews, and I have found those really great because he has some really spicy personal takes
He's a
that
polarizing guy.
he's polarizing or strongly held opinions. I don't know how other people receive him,
Hmm.
but in that format, I find him really engaging, incredibly compelling. Last week, I talked about what did we talk about last week? It was Chris Williamson. So
Selling.
I watched selling, but I watched Chris Williamson interview David Senra. That's why kind of like followed this rabbit hole on YouTube.
Hmm.
And it's 15 harsh truths from history's greatest founders. And he goes through these things that come up time and time again in these biographies. And one of them is about learning. And in this instance, it's like learning is behavior change. So
Hmm.
learning isn't just intake of knowledge, learning is behavior change. And so I've been thinking about that a lot in the past week, that I tend to intake a lot of information and then don't really do anything with it. That sounds great. That's a nice sound bite. Oh, yeah, it really resonates with me, but it is more of just a mental exercise that doesn't lead anywhere. Case in point, I've been focusing on becoming a better listener. And we were chatting about this before we jumped on. That includes a lot of things. One of them is not interrupting, or I think of something, somebody says something, and it reminds me of something. And, when you and I get into it, we're constantly just back
Back
and
and
forth,
forth.
and that's the banter, the rhythm, and it works well with people that you don't know. It's really easy to stomp on whatever they're talking about. I was at a wedding in New York and meeting some people for the first time, trying to ask them about the background, taking interest in them, and then they brought up something that we found in common, which is we both come from the Pacific Northwest. So we're both from Pacific Northwest, and we're kind of doing this dance of small talk to kind of find a common ground, and then we find it, and then I jump all in, and I'm like, and this and this and this and this and this, and then I realized that the dynamic of the conversation had changed to now I was dominating the conversation because I found something that we both find mutually interesting, or at least where there's some commonality. And I realized, like, oh, from that person's perspective, they probably also have a lot of input in this common area. And even if I think I know a bunch, there's just room for improvement there. And I was reflecting, leave that conversation and just, oh man, I totally dominated that conversation. What am I going to do differently next time? And it was the first time that you think of something, I have to come up with some like internal mantra of acknowledging that I have a thought. And right before we jumped on here, you started talking about something, and then I went, continue.
I could see you wanted to say something. I was like, yeah, go ahead.
That's right. So in this instance, I really think that is a real practical thing for me in my personal life, is trying to become a better listener. And I'm working on it, and I'm trying to not just take in the information, but turn it into behavior change. And then in kind of like the aggregate, all this stuff from Senra and these other individuals that you and I tend to follow, there's all these lessons that he's distilled down to really concise maxims. And I hear it and it makes me feel good. And then I don't do anything about it. So I just want to share the ones that are resonating with me right now
Okay.
and what I'm going to do about those.
Love
It's
it.
kind of my commitment.
Let's go.
So there's money comes as a result of service. That's a Henry Ford quote. You solve a problem for someone, and then you try to scale up the number of people that you solve that problem for. And that's effectively a business. There's this Richard Branson quote that Senra mentions in the interview, where it's like the best definition of a business is a problem solving engine. It solves problems for people.
Love the one-liners. They're so good.
Well, so both Chris Williamson and David Senra, they learn them, internalize them, and this is where I stop, is the stage of you hear that. Well, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean for me? How would I live that out? It's supposed to be the thing that brings it to mind. And so when you're in that instance, it triggers it's the cue to behavior change. And in this case, the money comes as a result of service is, if I find myself thinking about some outcome, oh, actually, I need to reverse this. This is not about what is in this for me. It's actually what value can provide to others.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about that in my job search, that, I have some opportunities that are more entrepreneurial, some opportunities that are more kind of within a hierarchical organization. And I was previously thinking a lot about, what is this going to do for me versus what can I do with this in order to provide value out, like creating value in the world. So keeping that in mind, I'm thinking about this next opportunity as an opportunity to learn and solve problems in service to other people as the way to make sense moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And pairing that with another one, which this is one that I think you'll enjoy, is a quote from Sam Zell. One of the OG podcast guests for David Senra is, "Go for freedom." It's all about not trading money for freedom. And in this conversation that David's relating, he says, if you maintain freedom, then you can work on what you love. And then you can control what you work on. You can work on what you love. And if you work on what you love, you'll do it for a long time. And if you do it for a long time, then you get really good at it. And if you get really good at it, money will come as a result. And then you don't have to trade money for time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this kind of inverse that people think, okay, I'm going to accumulate money and then I'll have the freedom. Actually, freedom is the precursor to more freedom through the chain of essentially not limiting your choice to something that you're not interested in.
Right.
And the last thing I'll leave you with, just from this video, it's David Senra. Well, it's a different video. David Senra was on My First Million, so Sam Parr was interviewing him, and
that's a great one, by the way.
That's a fantastic one.
So good.
This is where I think David like shows through like his true. He's like starting to kind of like loosen up a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's not so buttoned up. It's just a conversation, and you really see, him let loose with his opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Is the lesson that I'm taking from the freedom thing, and then from this conversation with Sam Parr, is finding the right fit before diving in full force is actually important. And I had thought the lesson that I was taking was focus is really important. And, you got to keep working super hard and put all of your effort into whatever you're working on. That is true, assuming that you found your life's work or something that you really enjoy, that you're able to actually put that effort in. Because I'm looking at these people that have found that, and then they're finding success because for them, either the work feels light or it feels like play, or it's just, I can do this all day and they're going to outlast everyone. Whereas for me, I haven't found what that is yet. And so I realized, I'm actually in a discovery phase right now.
For sure.
The Munger quote that David Senra brought up was, the hardest thing to do is to remember why you set out doing what you're doing and to keep things simple, and do that for a very long time. And the why you're doing something, I think, is easier, in David Senra's words, when you figure out what you're interested in. He said, I've talked to a lot of people in, entrepreneurship and what people are, working on something, and they're thinking, why am I not breaking through? Well, it's because I'm not interested in this. You're lying to yourself if you are faking the interest level. and it'll be very apparent when you find it. So as I take this forward in how I'm navigating this next phase of my career is really taking the pressure off to have find the fit right away. I'm in discovery mode and I'm going to follow my intuition about, "Oh, yeah, this is actually intriguing to me. This is what I'm going to be able to like pour a bunch of effort into pretty effortlessly."
Love that. Love it. Um, yeah, man, took a bunch of notes because I was giving you space to talk because I was like, there's so many times I wanted to jump in, but I'm like, okay, just take it, take a breath. And I had to take a bunch of notes because I'm like, there's so many great things you talked about then. And I love that you're thinking, okay, I need to kind of discover what I like to do. And I think, to be honest, whenever we have these conversations, like even before we start this hit play on the podcast here, I get excited because I'm like, oh, wow, like we have ideas, something pops in, we both say something, we both bounce each other, things off each other. And that's why like doing this is something that I really enjoy doing because I'm like, dude, when I talk to Garrett, I get great ideas. I think about things differently and he's got great insight. And it's just that I love doing it. So it's like, okay, how can we do this more? And so to your point, yes, this is a muscle movement that we both have to, get ready, get on the podcast, do all these things. And honestly, the other thing about it, it's not just about you, it's about your ecosystem as well, because you have a wife, you have a kid, you have things that you are obligated to do. So it's like finding that right fit and then also keeping the rest of your ecosystem good is very tough. And that's where, I'm not going to say you kind of have to block out what the world says sometimes, because the world's going to say, dude, just go get a $100,000 job, $150,000 job. You're not going to love it, but you're going to make enough money to feed your kids, go on nice trips, and everybody will be happy, for the most part, 80-90% of the time. Whereas David Sinra, he will tell you, like, and he's mentioned this before, hey, for the first 5.5 years, nobody listened to me. And it's like, that's a long time, but he was doing something he absolutely loved. And what I'll say about that is, on what you said about solving problems, and then finding the right fit, it's like, it takes a long time to find that problem you're trying to solve, to create that problem solving engine, right? So like in the beginning, you're just a bicycle pedaling your way through these problems. And you're like, oh, I can send somebody a workout plan that solves one problem for them and they're happy. Okay, how much can I scale this? Well, I'm only one person, so I can only do so many things. All right, I don't know if that's super scalable. I would have to charge a lot of money. And so then the wheels start turning, and then you start like going, okay, it's almost paralysis by analysis sometimes, where it's like, okay, I have to find something that I know I'm making enough money for to live a decent life. Like I'm not going to be, and that's the other thing you have to take into account, is like, I'm probably not going to be living lavishly while I'm trying to discover this and find something that I really, really want to do, because there's some things you have to give up. Not always the case. Some people, don't have to give up anything and they still do it, which is, I think very rare, but a lot of times it's a trade-off where you are going to have to give up maybe going on as many vacations or as many fun things you want to do, and be like, hey, I really got to focus on this thing because I have to make it work in the current ecosystem that we live in called the United States, that you have to make money in order to live. And so that's where, when you talked about solving problems and making enough money, or I don't know if specifically, but I wrote down Tom Bilyeu because I remember Tom Bilyeu had a quote one time where he's like, you should get paid the amount of money with what problem you're trying to solve. And that's not always the case, but I really took that into account because I'm like, the main thing that I'm trying to solve is obesity and basically overweight population in the United States has been increasing over the past like 30 or 40, 50 years. So I'm like, how do we make that thing go down? Well, Ozempic has been doing a really good job so far. But honestly, we still have to figure out how to implement like healthy habits, and because you can't just take Ozempic all the time and make a thing go down. But what I'm getting at is, I think you're so right. It's like blending what you really enjoy to solving a problem, which I'm going to get into in my topic it's kind of fun talking about problem solving, but that's essentially what you want to do is like, and it's kind of vague, but you also just have to get into a thing that you actually like. So like right now, thinking of it from a meta standpoint, like we are in the process of figuring out what we want, what problem we want to solve with this podcast, with what we're saying. And we want to put out like our thoughts, what we're watching, what we learn from it, and how it can benefit other people. So I think that's really cool. I could listen to Dave Senra, every day. And like you said, it's almost, it's very easy to listen to this stuff and say, I should do this. I need to do this. And stuff. But then putting it into practice is the main point. And it's finding those little things that you can do day in and day out. And it's going to be tough. So Dave Senra has been reading books and just talking to a microphone for the past 10 years. And he's figured out what people like, what people want to hear. And then he dives even more into it. He goes, oh my gosh, like I found a crowd that actually likes what I'm doing, is benefiting what I'm doing. I'm going to dive into more into it, because that goes back to the free time thing. He's like, I've already been doing this. Now I'm even jazzed up even more that this group of people loves what I'm putting out. I can do it even better now, and I can make it even better, blah, 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 blah. And it morphs over time. So that's the cool thing.
Absolutely. No, the thing that I was thinking about was, you see Dave Senra, or you see these other people, and he is just so on fire, and it's so intoxicating and really compelling about what he's doing. He always says, you should go read or listen to this podcast episode. You should read the book. That's his frame of the world. I've taken his advice and recently, started listening to some of the episodes that have come up a lot in his conversations, like started digging through the kind of the high leverage episodes. But like, I'm thinking, oh man, it would be great to be in the position that he's in. The quote that I don't know who it's attributed to, but it has changed the perspective that I have on when I get this emotion, what do I do with it, is envy is an imprecise emotion. Meaning, I see David Senra's life, and it's like, wow, I want that. It's like, actually, I don't want his life. What I want, and the thing that I've kind of pulled out as the common thread amongst these things is, wow, he did the hard work to reject the notion that work has to be all drudgery, and he's going to actually go find the thing, and then he's going to hammer that thing until he dies. There's another lesson from the harsh truths thing, which I'm going to butcher because I didn't write it down, is for highly motivated or highly successful people, the only exit strategy is death. Meaning you're doing something that you love, and you just want to do that forever. Like, you found the thing. And that's the thing that I see. Wow, that is so powerful. And so I tend to reject the notion that I have to settle for just okay.
Mm-hmm.
I also do have some limits in my personal life that I'm wrestling with as well.
Yeah.
That you mentioned, the frame that I'm in, that you also see these founders that go crazy extremes, and they sacrifice all this personal stuff, and then they look back, and some of them regret it, and some of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
I hear even David Senra in the My First Million interview with Sam. He's talking about how he's changed his perspective. He's grown in that the intensity and all this stuff, even though he's getting more expressive with his opinions and whatnot, he's coming into his own. He's also saying, like, the darkness that drove me, that's not necessarily serving me right now. And so it's really interesting seeing him go through this journey as he's trying to, embody what these other people have gone on their journey, and what does that mean, and how is he wrestling with it? Because I'm doing the same thing. And so I'm trying to kind of not fall into the same pitfalls
For sure
that other people have, which I'm not saying I'm definitely highly privileged to be able to go out on this search to manifest my best self. And also I know that I'm not extraordinary or special in terms of genius level intelligence.
In some ways you are.
Sure. But I don't consider myself as deserving. I don't have a right. I don't assume a right to deserve these things. And that's been my biggest perspective change is, oh, actually the things that are worth having are earned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They really are. And then being honest with myself is, did I do what it took to earn that opportunity or right?
for sure.
They're earned, and there's also a huge amount of luck, right? So it's like luck puts you in the opportunity space. Activity can breed luck. There's different kinds of luck, and then once you're there, then it's just effort.
Yeah. No, and I think I love the quotes that you brought up, because I think doing what you really love to do, or like finding that, and like, man, we both love listening to great podcasts and great videos. We love doing that. So it's like, okay, how do we synthesize that stuff and give it to the users so that people like listening to us and we are servicing them, right? Because if we're doing that and people start listening to us and, they go, man, we find value in what Austin and Garrett are doing. That is a service. That is a service that you don't realize is super helpful until it happens. And it's because we already love doing what we're doing. Now we're just like, okay, now we need to just package it up and put it together and see if people do want to enjoy it. And then here's the other part. Getting the feedback when people go, oh, dude, I really like when you were talking about this, or I want you to, could you guys maybe shorten it up or like talk about this, that, and the other, right? Like taking the feedback in and saying, okay, I'm going to tweak this just a little bit so I can make it even better for the people who really want to watch it. And I think that's the thing is like, you don't poop gold. So you're like, you're going to put something out there. People are going to react to it. And then you can say, okay, how can I make this better from the feedback and also from other people's, what they're doing out there. So I think it's always like, you're always trying to refine your process to find what works best as a service, right? And that's what I'll kind of jump to, the topic I want to talk about because it talks about sales and service and tools and outcomes. And we talked about this before the podcast, but like I just had a conversation with an alumni relations director and he was like, hey, I just honestly, like I can distill the whole conversation down into, I just want to know this is going to work. I want to know that what the event that you're providing for me is actually going to get alumni to use your product. Like I want to know it's going to work before I pay for it. And then I also want to know that I'm not going to be paying out the yin yang if it does work really, really well. And so like I listened to this, podcast or like video from a YC. It was called I like the title. It's called How Startups Close $1 Million Deals. If that's not clickbait, I don't know what is. So, and I know the guys it's called Dalton plus Michael. They do these talks one-on-one where they do like 15-minute talks about certain topics. They've been in the YC program. And so they see these startups all the time. And Dalton said, hey, usually the first conversation I have with startups, they go, hey, how can I sell to a big company for millions of dollars? And so, because at the end of the day, I feel like that's popped into my head a few times. I'd love to know the trick or whatever. And so that's what they talked about in the video. And I took a few things from that, which were kind of fun. And one of the things that stood out to me was they talk about, Michael goes, are you selling a tool or are you selling an outcome? And I was like, I love when people who've been around something for a long time can distill it down to like two things. And you're like, oh, am I selling a tool or an outcome? Like, I love that. Like, it's like, Warren Buffett, like just invest and hold. That's it. Like I just find it very, very cool when you hear something and people distill it down to literally, you can just go, wait, that's awesome. I can think about Fly Fit or Fly Bodies or my mileage challengers, mileage clubs. And it was like, am I selling a tool or am I selling an outcome? Whoa, that's really cool. And then he said, startups that position themselves as solving a company's revenue problem, selling outcomes can charge significantly more money than just selling tools. And I was like, that's really cool. And going back to the alumni relations conversation that I had, I am selling outcomes right now, which is really cool because I'm like, oh, wow. Like I can bucket myself in selling an outcome. Because when I'm selling to an alumni relations director, I am selling to him, hey, I'm going to get this many alumni on the platform and they're going to be happy. That's an outcome, right? And I was like, wow, I really can start focusing on that, positioning myself as selling an outcome. And he talked about selling tools, and they used the example they used tools examples, but they also used an example of selling outcomes as Palantir. Palantir sells outcomes to huge companies about going into their business and saying, hey, we just did a deep dive into your company, and if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll make this much money. And people want to hear that. Or they go into the United States military and say, hey, if you use our product, you'll be able to kill the right people, right? Like they even use that in the talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. So that's where I'll stop there. And I don't know if that's as profound as me explaining it, but I highly recommend going and watch the video. But Garrett, I want to know what you think about selling tools versus selling outcomes. Yeah. What you think?
Yeah, no, I love the maxims or the aphorisms. I'm not sure what the exact right word is. To have like a short, it's pithy, you can remember it. It's a framework, it's a heuristic. And then as soon as you said that, I was thinking, oh, I know how I would shape a sales pitch to sell an outcome versus a tool. And in the case of the alumni relations, the tool would be you take this thing and you do your work with it. And then you, the customer who bought this tool, you're responsible for the outcome. You're responsible for what happens with it. If you're skilled, great. If you're not skilled, that's on you. Mm-hmm. And that, hey, I'm going to give you this thing that you can do blank with. And then, it requires skill, it requires training, it requires effort. The leap, or even just if the outcome is it's dummy proof, it's just going to work, but you don't draw the line from the use of tool to outcome. Mm-hmm. The customer, they're likely not interested as much as you could say, hey, what do you really want? You want alumni to be engaged and to be active within a community? Let me just show you what this looks like in practice. And they're like, oh, people showed up. I don't care what modality is. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what it is. You got me the thing that I want, which is the outcome. But the difference is you, the company, are responsible for that. You're actually saying, I'm not going to put it on you. This thing makes it so that we will deliver this to you.
Exactly.
It's ownership and accountability versus this, I don't know. Yeah, the tool thing is just throw it over the fence and say, good luck. Whereas the outcome thing is actually, we promise that we can deliver on the thing that you actually care about. And we're gonna draw the line to say, look exactly how these things relate.
Correct. And one thing he actually asked for, and this is like a sales tactic, because I actually jujitsu'd my way out of this, because he asked me, he goes, can you just send me some stuff from other schools you've worked with? And so that I know. And this, I didn't lie, because I was like, I never lie, especially because you never know what you're saying. So never lie. That's number one. Kids don't lie. Anyways, but he goes, dude, if you could, he was like, you know what, man, if you could just send me like how this has worked out for other schools, that'd be awesome. And in the back of my head, I'm like, we've only worked with a couple schools, so I can't send him any great data, right? So then that's when I pivoted to saying, hey, because my first thought was, and this is sales, this is we're getting a little bit off topic, but I thought this was super helpful, because I'm like, oh, when we're talking, sales is huge. And so you have to kind of get adaptable when you're talking to somebody and figure out what they want. So then I went on price, because I was like, oh shoot, I don't have the data to back up what I'm saying. So I'm going to go down in price, and I'm going to try to say, hey, we can work with your price. Then he came back with, after I said, hey, we can work with your price, he's like, dude, I don't want to work with your price. The price isn't the thing. I just want to, and he even said, he was just like, I kind of want to make sure the price is going to stay the same, even if we get 5,000 to 10,000 people on this thing. And I was like, oh, got you. So it was cool. Yeah, dude, I can send you over language that basically is a contract that says, if we hit these numbers, we'll only increase the cost this much. Right. And so that, for me, I was like, oh, he's still on the outcomes base. He doesn't care. The price isn't the thing. He just wants to know, hey, if you go up more, if we have 10,000 people on this thing, then I'm not going to increase the price to $20,000 and then he's up the creek and he's got to pay that out, or his alumni are going to be pissed because they can't pay for this anymore. And so I was like, oh, wow. Because to your point, when selling outcomes, you have to see a lot of people, if you're selling a big ticket item, they want to know, did this work previously? So you have to show that data. And that's what I was getting at. I was like, I don't have that data to be able to send that to him. So I've got to get kind of creative on how I'm going to sell this to him without having to show him small amounts of data that this worked. But like, anyways.
Yeah.
So that was any cool. Go ahead.
No, the assumption, sales is all about this like discovery and curiosity thing. So you say, hey, can you send me over data? The technique that I've heard, and this is hard to do live, right? You talk about the adaptability. It's really hard to do live, and the reps really matter. Is like what, I'm interested. What kind of decision would that help you make with the data? Like, what kind of data are you looking for? Like understanding the why behind that thing. Ask another question, because you literally was it Hormozy or something? It was never answer a question.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. You always
they're like, hey, how has this worked at other schools? You just never answer a question, and that's kind of like
at other schools.
No, seriously, it's like, what would you expect? Because when you told me this before we jumped on the call, I was thinking, wow, okay, so that framing of, I think that this could be a hit. We have a huge alumni base. This seems to me to be either underpriced, which you just discovered a huge value driver, or they just don't want a surprise in pricing.
Exactly.
And so you say, oh, well, we can account for that. And then if it does take off, you're aligned. If they got 5,000 to 10,000 people, that would be huge for them. And so then you should be able to, as the outcome deliverer, participate in that value that you created.
Exactly.
So it's interesting how, not as like a dig to you, that the pivot to, oh, I think that he's thinking about price, to discovering that it wasn't about price and it was still about the outcomes thing, allowed you to unlock and create more value versus kind of this, hey, this is this thing that we're kind of, bartering over on the price itself.
Exactly. So one last thing, and then we'll get into some not rapid fire. We'll just talk about them. But so it's kind of interesting. I'm always trying to think. I'm a problem solver, entrepreneur. Entrepreneur means problem solver. I'm not like, oh, guru. I'm always trying to think like, how can I make it better? So beforehand, like you said, this is kind of meta, but like if someone has made it this far and you're still listening to us, this is great. But because I think about this. So when you were talking about, hey, I'm trying to listen to what people talk, or so listen to people talk before I jump in. But what actually helps this the most is if the person you're talking to gives you the opportunity to give your opinion, right? And not going on forever. So this is what I'm saying. So you have to be, the talker has to be pretty good at what they do so that they can give you the opportunity to give you that space to make your opinion. So it's just like, so that's what jumped into my brain. I was like, oh man, obviously if someone's talking for a long, long time, you're going to be like, oh, I want to jump in. But if someone is talking, you go, hey, I'm going to break this up into bite-sized pieces. And I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to talk for 30 seconds and I'm going to say, hey, Garrett, what do you think? Because I was just like, oh, geez, like it's kind of fun to think about that problem. Like a lot of people like will talk. And then people are like, oh God, they talked forever, blah, blah. And then when you do get the opportunity, then you want to talk forever because you want to talk about everything they talked about. So it's like, that balance of going back and forth and making it a rhythm. And so that's why I wrote it down.
There's two books that I want to talk about that I've learned, and they go hand in hand. One, you're right, listening is a two-way street. It's the person's ability to listen when you're talking that makes it such that you can have a good conversation, and their willingness to. And there's parts that play on both. So there's two books. There's one which is the Lost Art of Listening by Michael Nichols, and then there's Brief, which is a book on making a bigger impact by saying less by Joseph McCormack. So I've read both of those. I've internalized more of the lessons from the listening book, less from the saying less book, as you can tell. Because I looked at the clock as I was doing my first thing, and it was hit the 10-minute mark, and I was like, I'm blowing right past what I expected to say. Because it had enhanced it. I do the Steve Carell in the Office thing. What's his name? Michael. Yeah,
Okay.
his name's
Yeah,
Michael,
yeah,
right? In the
Michael.
Office.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People are gonna flame me for that. He says, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going, and it's like that's me. I process out loud, so I could do a better job at actually being considerate and concise to be able to have that back and forth, and so saying less to say more.
I love it. So, and it takes time too, because, and I appreciate it's like being willing to say, okay, cool, I'm going to work on that. And for me, I try to notice things in the moment, and also setting our own timestamp, right? So like saying, okay, dude, next time we do this, we're going to literally have like a clock and be like, hey, you got 3 minutes or 5 minutes to get this out.
Like
right?
a chess clock kind of vibe where it's like I look at the timer and I should just wrap it, because no matter what I'm going to say, it doesn't give you the opportunity to kind of do this like
wavy thing. Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of fun talking about this during this podcast
right now. Yeah.
Because that's the whole point. It's like, oh wow, we just figured out something, hopefully, I think, because when Sean and Sam are going back and forth, it seems effortless a lot of times.
They're also edited quite well in addition. So they're skilled, and then there's presentation. You can't fix everything in post.
Exactly. Right.
To be clear. Something that I'll mention, we'll see when I watch the recording, is last time I noticed I said the word like every other word. And I think that I've done an okay job at that. That's the 1% better kind of vibe for this. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but it feels as if I haven't used that crutch in terms of word processing.
I haven't really heard it that much because I've been focusing on taking notes. So I haven't been focusing on that too much.
So you weren't writing down like every other word?
I was actually making TikTok.
Garrett was
and you did it 1,000 times. No. I say and all right, and I use filler words all the time. So
1% better.
1% better. So that's kind of cool. I think for the next time we do this, we'll set some time frames, because we don't have, a stellar post-recording person yet. We will one day. But I wanted to jump in like 4 things that are kind of fun. These are my guilty pleasure that I probably spend too much time doing. Like my wife watches Desperate Housewives, and I'm like, it kills me. But this is like my guilty pleasure. So the first one, and we'll wrap this up, next 5 or 10 minutes, SpaceX. They have an IPO coming up tomorrow. And I've just been consumed by it just because I'm like, it is the thing. I'm curious. Have you looked into it already? Have you looked into it at all? Do you know anything about it? Do you have any opinions?
Yeah. There's 2 things that I think about. One is companies have been staying private for longer. That's kind of a track record. Not that's like significant change in the frequency of IPOs, but that kind of comes and goes as the market is ready for it. And so now that there is this fair weather for IPOs, seemingly, and the market cap, the valuation for SpaceX, what they filed for, then you see at the same time, is it OpenAI and Anthropic are also kind of like OpenAI did this like confidential filing, and so there's something about. There's a Charlie Munger quote about how it all comes down to interest rates. As long as you understand how interest rates impact things in finance, then you'll know. I haven't done any analysis, but there's something that is making me thinking, okay, something is going on right now in the here and now. There's some timing. Of course, there's like a natural progression for this to occur, but like these people aren't dumb. They're doing this for some reason in this era, this time. So timing for an IPO is really critical, because what you're doing is you're taking these companies that are private, where the investors that have given you capital expect to see, like in the Anthropic or OpenAI case, well, maybe OpenAI because of public benefit corporation, they have some issues. Okay, lawsuit, they have some issues. Also, Elon suing Sam at the same time. It's crazy, right? That's Real Housewives right there. That's Real Housewives.
That's what I'm saying. No, dude, it's insane. Essentially, the price is 1.8 trillion, and I've heard there's 2 camps. Ron Barron has invested like millions and billions of dollars into Tesla and SpaceX. And he's basically like, hey, you should take every cent you own and put it in SpaceX because it's going to be worth like 30, 40, 50 trillion dollars in the next 5 to 10 years. He says that. Then other people are like, the valuation's way high. You should wait until it dips and then get in, obviously.
So the valuation, this is another thing, right? So private capital, an IPO is not an exit for these people. It's an opportunity to sell equity in the public markets, and public perception and the requirements that it takes for a company to have like really good books, all the filing requirements for IPO. You open yourself up to public perception, and then you get into the fear greed thing.
For sure.
And if you think about Mr. Market, if you're a Ben Graham or a Warren Buffett fan, thinking about how everyone's kind of collective crowd opinion of what the value of this is changes the outcome. IPOs typically have a little bit of a drop. There's like a bump drop kind of effect. So sure, you can rebuy at the lower. I myself am doing index investing, so I don't really care.
And that's and
I'm happy for that. I think that the danger is this gets out there and then narrative drives whether or not we believe that this is going to go to $30 trillion. The market that Elon is saying based on the valuation that they filed at was 28 trillion, at which 27 trillion of that was enterprise AI, which is half of the size of I'm remembering these facts from a LinkedIn post. So if they're like not accurate, it's fine. Half of the GDP of the US is this enterprise AI thing. It's just like, is that true? I'm also seeing a bunch of other stuff about like the cost of tokens and how that's affecting businesses as a line item and all these things where the economics of these companies that are just burning private capital are crazy. In a race to get to the public markets where if somebody says, hey, OpenAI is not profitable and the cost of tokens just went up and people are like their opinion, things, I think opening yourself up to public markets needs to have a specific purpose, which is I need access to capital to do blank. It's like kind of this, like, it's this inexpensive capital.
For sure.
For business to be able to allocate. And so if it's just to get an exit, because Elon's like packing in all these companies, he's basically SPACing, like he's throwing XAI and Tesla into here because he says we're going to produce chips on the moon or whatever. You saw that the thing. So that's my take is timing, and I'm interested in the kind of market dynamics, and then specifically for like the pricing and what does it mean for Elon to be able to get out there. I'm bullish on SpaceX in general.
For sure.
The whole like public listing thing. I'm like, I don't know if this is the right thing.
Right. So all your points are literally valid, and like everyone is trying to figure out, gosh, is it really worth it? But another video I watched, the guy was like, it was funny because he actually invested in SpaceX with a couple other guys like really early on when it was only worth like $200 million or something valuation, like something crazy, right? And then all of a sudden it went like the company had to give their shares back and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, long story short, he said, if you've wasted your time trying to figure out if you like, you should just wait, blah, blah, blah. But I was just like, I've had a experience where 10 years ago, or not 10, it was 8 years ago, I was listening to Ron Barron talk about Tesla and how literally is like, it was weird. It was almost like an out of body experience where it was 8 years ago. I was listening to him to talk about Tesla and how there was going to be robo taxis. And I took a bunch of money and invested in Tesla, and the price went up, I think it went up like 8 times or something, or like 5 or 6 times. And I was like, I'm a genius, but obviously it was right before COVID, crashed back down, and I got out. But anyways, the reason why I say that is because I felt like it's the same thing where Ron Barron has put in so much money into SpaceX, and he wants people to believe in it as much as he does, and he wants to make money from it. I'm just like, it's not like an ill will or anything like that, but I was like, oh my God, like I'm the same way with you. I'm not going to jump in. I'm not going to right now. I'm going to wait until, it dips. I think SpaceX is going to be an amazing company, but the valuation is crazy and stuff like that. So like, it's like, that's my guilty pleasure is like, man, I kind of want to know what people are thinking, if it's going to go up, go down, that type of thing. So that's why I brought that up, because I'm just like, it's been in the news. It's been everywhere. Everybody's just curious do you think this is a crazy valuation? And so that's why I was like, oh, like, kind of a spicy topic. And then the last two quick questions. World Cup, do you have a favorite team you think is going to win? And then two, what's your favorite TV show right now?
So I love sports. I love international sports. I will say that I've been focused on other things for the World Cup perspective. Maybe that's not a good take. I will probably jump in sometime in the elimination and watch some games. No dog in that fight. What about you?
Same. I mean, it's in SoFi. Like, there's a ton of games. I think there's like 8 or 9 games at SoFi. You know, I have no clue about soccer. I think the thing that you talked about, how they're putting a chip in the soccer ball, that's more exciting than actually who's going to win.
Yeah, no, they have tracking in the ball. It has to be charged for the game. Yeah, first year that the World Cup is doing this. I'm sure they've tested it in other settings. But the official ball. I mean, it's amazing. I think, you know, more sports should do that kind of thing. Like, if the NFL relies upon somebody's vision from like 100 feet away to see did it cross the line and they're reviewing it, it's like, just put like sensors in the pylon in the ball.
Exactly.
If now it's a game of inches, you can be literally a game of millimeters if you want it to be.
Exactly.
But the NFL, you know, baseball released the ABS challenge thing, like the assisted whatever, and that's been great because teams get a chance to be like, no, I think that was off. And honestly, most umps are pretty good. It's actually kind of crazy. They're really good. Now there's a game that I watched where the Red Sox were playing, and they're in the same game, like 6 low and outside balls by like a mile were out and called them strikes. So that's just kind of like, oh, his sights are off. Like he's precise, but he's not accurate. But it's consistent enough that like, okay, yeah, it doesn't look like this, but it looks like this. Okay, sure, like batters and pitchers can predict that, but it's helping the game a little bit.
For sure.
And then the umps that aren't good are going to get out. So I just like the idea of bringing technology to sport, having the human judgment, but then having the assistant to be like, hey, actually, this is the case. 100%. I don't think robo refs or zero refs, because you still need people to manage.
Yeah, and it's part of the game. You know? It's part of the ambiance of the game. And then, what show? Any shows?
You mentioned reality TV. My wife started watching Real Housewives of Rhode Island, and I stepped in the room and I was like watching a little bit of it. It's actually engaging. Like, they do a great job. And I don't know. If my wife has it on, then, you know, I'll probably start to get into it a little bit. But I'm not going out of my way to like sit down and watch the show at this point. That's just fun. What about you?
I'll say mine, and then so Widow's Bay is really, really good. I don't know if it's on HBO or it might be on HBO or something like that. To be honest, I didn't start watching shows until I started dating my wife 4 years ago. I guess, no, 3 years ago at this point, but because I just didn't watch a lot of shows. But now I've gotten to the show realm and I'm like, oh, Widow's Bay, it's like a horror, it's like a comedy.
Thriller?
It's like a dark comedy. It's weird.
Yeah, black comedy.
It's a black comedy for sure. And I don't know if it's black, it's dark.
Well, that's the phrase, like blue. Anyways,
is that the phrase? I don't know.
I'll look it up, and then we can fix this later
in the show.
A subgenre that blends morbid, taboo, or disturbing subjects with humor.
So, and I think they do a good job because it's like there are some like scary. It's scary, but then they definitely. I feel like that is the new thing, making scary things funny. Like at some point, like mixing in there so it's not super scary, but like there's funny parts. Anyways, Widow's Bay, it's really, really good.
Well, I'll have to not check it out. You just tell me about it. I say that because I'm like, you know, the common thing is like, oh, that sounds interesting. It's like, that does sound interesting.
I'm not going to watch it.
I'm not going to watch it. I mean, I'm happy for you. You have your thing. In the same way, I wouldn't expect you to, you know, watch Real Housewives of Rhode Island.
Perfect. All right. Well, no, I also peek my head in, and and my wife finds me staring at the screen, and she'll take videos of me watching it with my mouth open, and she'll be like, and she'll send it to me, and I'm like, she's like, oh, I thought you didn't like it. And I was like, it's a train wreck. How can you not?
Hats off to them for making a great show.
All right, we'll end it there. Good stuff. Good pod. I think it's good to end there. We got to figure out how